players in and around the 6-yard box. Fry's lifted it up. It's off the post, and it's an Olympic goal for Roscoe Fry. Tisso's looking for Del Campo, turns the corner, Del Campo! Oh, he can't stop scoring goals! And what a finish that is for the Spaniard!
Oh my goodness me, they're back in front, Valour. And Valour FC celebrate their first win.
Welcome back. Welcome back to reality after a long weekend, a very sunny long weekend in Canada. And welcome back to the CPL Newsroom presented by Volkswagen. I'm Charlie O'Connor-Clarke alongside Mitchell Tierney. And what a weekend it was. Right, Mitch? In the CPL, are you okay?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You're just grinning. You're just happy about it.
Chaos weekend, honestly.
It was a chaos weekend. So what better way to celebrate than with a chaos show, as it always kind of is at the moment on our newsroom here. But anyway, quickly, we'll just talk you through the results we had before we get right into them. Friday night, clash at the top of the table between Atletico Ottawa and Pacific at Starlight Stadium. Pacific's clean sheet streak broken as Ottawa remain the only undefeated team in the league, winning 1-0 to go top of the table. Saturday's doubleheader. Vancouver FC 2, Forge FC 1, Vancouver FC 2. We got to get our style guide right here. Home team is, yeah, I did it right. Anyway, Vancouver won at Tim Hortons Field is what I'm trying to say. And then later that night, Cavalry 2, York United 2 at Spruce Meadows. We had a day off on Sunday. I hope everybody was able to enjoy the sunshine wherever you were. I mean, I don't know if there's sunshine everywhere in Canada. So if you didn't have sunshine, I'm very sorry to hear that. And then Monday, another beautiful day out in Halifax, but not necessarily the cheeriest of atmospheres by the end of the game, as Valour FC win their first game of the 2024 Canadian Premier League season, 2-1 over the Halifax Wanderers. And that is actually where we're going to start this week's show. I think it will work in reverse order because that one's a little bit fresher in everyone's memory. Mitch, I want to start with Valour from this game because they take the lead early. Diego Resurrecao with that incredible goal that I know, is pretty clearly like the first moment this season. I think we've kind of seen Valour do something and been like, oh my goodness, that was an incredible goal. But it wasn't the first time they've taken a lead this year because they, and like every other time previously, they allow Halifax back in the game. It's level, but this time, Valour managed to find another moment. Jordy Swibble in the 75th minute. They win 2-1. Mitch, how big a moment was this for Valour, and how important is it, and how much of a relief is it for them to just finally get on the board?
Oh, it's a significant relief, and it comes on the back of a week where they were actually able to get home to train in Winnipeg and kind of go over all of the difficulties that really have brought from the start of the season. And like you mentioned, I think the biggest thing here is, once again, they take the lead, and then, they get in really unfortunate circumstances. I mean, that's a maybe a debatable penalty, one that they will be really frustrated about, but we've seen them collapse every other time something like that has happened to them this season. And this time, not only do they not collapse, they go out and score a fantastic second goal. And it starts with just getting that one and getting points on the board, and to do that before they got home, I think is really significant and important, and gives them something to build on now that previous to this, we were talking about the most like marginal things, like, oh, they had a good 45 or they had a good 60 or something like that, and then this time it was by and large a pretty good 90. Halifax, and we'll talk about them, they didn't create all that much, and you love the way Valour is able to see out this game as well. When you see the 6 minutes of stoppage time go up on the board, you're thinking, oh boy, this is going to be difficult. But they really all from the front line all the way to the back committed to that team defending style. And that's why, we're talking about their first victory of the season.
Yeah, and I think very, very well deserved. A Valour team that came out and wanted it, and they knew that it's a Halifax team that was maybe feeling a little bit of pressure at home in their holiday, and Valour came in and they spoiled that party, and you could see how much it meant to them both times they scored. When both Reza Rousseau and Swibble kind of celebrating with the whole bench and the substitutes when they score a goal like that. It's a really big moment that can turn things around in a very major way for a club like this. And I think it's just, as you mentioned, kind of so good for Valour to be able to get a result like that on this road trip. If they'd come home, they're not as far away from that home opener as they felt a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
That is, the nature of the passage of time. I think it's only a couple weeks to go. They've got one more game on the road in Cavalry before they're at home against Vancouver FC on June 2nd. But to come home with something, I think is so massive for them. And I think again a big kind of fundamental moment where Phil DeSantis can look at these guys and be like, you have actually seen out a game. You've put together, roughly 90 minutes. It's not just as you mentioned, a kind of small marginal things where we had a half-hour stretch where we were good. We played well against Forge and still didn't get out of it with anything. This is a win. It's a big win. They're not in the bottom of the table anymore, which is always a nice thing to wake up and see if you're a Valour player. And I think the mood was very high. So let's confirm that theory right now by going back to the Wanderers grounds and hearing from their winning goal scorer, Jordy Swibble.
Yeah, like you said, it's been a long 7 games plus the cup games, so to get the first win is so important. It's the monkey off the back. I think it was kind of playing on our minds and everyone was aware of it, so to get the 3 points is the main thing, and we can just continue to push forward from there. And on a personal note, that's what I love doing. I love scoring goals, and that's what I came here to do, so hopefully there's many more to come.
Jordy Swibble's second goal with Valour already. A really good finish from him, and always fun to see strikers scoring goals. I feel like it's more entertaining to watch a team when their center forward is putting the ball in the net consistently. So very, very happy for Valour, because that's obviously a big moment for them. We do have to get to the more negative part of this section of the show. The Halifax Wanderers looked like things were looking up a little bit more, turning around a bit when they get that result against Cavalry last weekend, but it just didn't happen for them this week, and now they are 5 games in. Sorry, because they skipped a week, but 5 games in without a win, with 1 point, sitting at the bottom of the table. Mitch, what did you make of this game from Halifax? Because I think there were still, we can talk about positives if we want, but what did you kind of make of the performance as a whole, and just how are you feeling right now if you're a Wanderers fan?
Yeah, I think you're feeling pretty frustrated if you're at any place within the organization, because quite honestly, I think we all thought it would be Halifax waking up this morning and looking at the table and feeling that they're in a bit of a better spot, because everything just seemed to be setting up for them. This was the fixture last year against Valour at home where they really turned things around. Valour are coming in again, like we said, not having shown a complete 90 yet this season. They hadn't, if you're Halifax, been playing that bad to start the year. It just felt like they needed something to break for them. And just the manner in which they get really gifted a penalty. And it felt like that was a moment where really, you have the opportunity now to go on and win a game that maybe you didn't deserve to win. And maybe that kickstarts things going forward. But the fact that they aren't able to do that they concede a late goal. And, I think they'll be disappointed in the way they defended both of their goals, which has been an issue so far this season. They're already struggling to pick up points at home, which was, basically a guarantee, a lock last season that they were going to get those points. So, yeah, there's a lot to be concerned about. They're still the only side in the Canadian Premier League to not have led this year. And obviously, it goes without saying, if you're not leading matches, you're not getting points. So, or at least, you're not getting 3
You're
points.
certainly
So,
not winning them. Yeah.
yes, there you go. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So there is a lot to be concerned about. Positives, Caligari's back. Yeah, and you do get that short turnaround to play against York United, which again, when you're struggling, there's two schools of thinking. Obviously, Valour, it was probably good for them to get a bit of a break, but Halifax have been at home. They've been, they haven't been traveling as much as some of the other teams. I think for them, they really probably just want to jump back in and try and, use all of these wounds as a positive and show, what we expected from them before this season, that they're going to be a competitive side in the league this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good point that they go on the road now. They're at York and then they're at Ottawa the weekend after. So they're on the road for quite a while together, which I think is a good moment to regroup, kind of reset at the start of a season, because after that they're back home against Forge. And I think you want to get you definitely have to get something out of this road trip, right?
Absolutely.
York on Friday night, and then I think they have quite a while. I think it's Ottawa the following Sunday. I believe it's as far as that. But anyway, I think the best way to put a bow on this kind of Halifax moment is just to hear from them themselves, because I think the people in that dressing room and on that staff know better than anybody what the frustration level is. So I think they were very open and candid about those emotions, I think, yesterday. So let's go back to the Wanderers grounds twice here. We'll start by hearing from their head coach, Patrice Geyser.
There's a lot to collect there, Josh. Look, I said that last week, that I'll take the responsibility. I'll take the responsibility for that. But I think, look, you played a team that was just like us. They wanted it. I don't want to put it on grit, but I had a lot of fight. And I'm not saying we didn't. We had some fight, but it's like, the little deflections, just nothing coming off for us. So the attack is like coming short. The defending is giving up a goal. So I think I want to congratulate Valour on their first win. They brought a lot of energy, but we really have to do some soul searching, and we have to go back. And I think this York game may be exactly what we need, with a short turnaround against a very good team that just came off a great result against Calgary. So I think we just gotta, it's like, how do I explain this, Josh? Like when it's not working, the best thing you can do is just jump at it again. We've had long layoffs and we have struggled with some things, but we got to do some soul searching. We have to be better in every moment of the game and phase, and we just got to come out and fight. We got to go again.
Got to do some soul searching, Patrice says. Anyway, let's hear as well from Halifax's captain, Andre Rampersad.
Yeah, I think it's tough to keep it positive, to be honest, but it's a big job of mine to try to keep the younger guys and the team, focused on us coming out of this hole that we've dug for ourselves. I think as the leader of the team, I have to try my best to go for perfection. I think when I look at the first goal, I think I should have cleared the ball, try to play it in the midfield, and then they come down and they score. So it's tough when those kind of things happen because I like to lead by example, but at the same time, I know the guys, would take my word, and I just got to keep them up and keep positive and keep it moving.
Captain Rampy taking the responsibility on himself as a vocal and strong leader that club has had for all 6 seasons. He's seen it all in Halifax. Anyway, tough times there, but we're moving to Calgary now, where we had, I think, the most entertaining game of the weekend, right, Mitch? 2-2, 2 lead changes. Cavalry taking the first half lead off the penalty spot with Warshevsky, but then York score twice in a few minutes with in the second half with Austin Ricci, and then Brian Wright kind of jumping on a misplay out of the back from Cavalry, and then it's not a high quality entertaining Cavalry game unless they score from a set piece. And they did. This time it was not, however, Moosey to Klump. It was Fraser Aird to the head of Malcolm Shaw. Maybe a newer combination that we'll see more of this year, but again, a really good finish from him. Mitch, what did you make of this game? And do you think, which team do you think ends up a little bit happier with this result?
Yeah, a fantastic match, as you said. I mean, both teams had a good shout to win it late as well. I think Dan Klomp hits the post, and then Caden Martin-Prue hits it directly at Marco Carducci with a chance that could have secured York 3 points, but I think they'd be very happy with the one, especially considering, it's been a bit seesaw from them this season. That's been the issue is, they go out and score 3 goals and then they concede 3 goals and they go back and score 3 goals. And, it's been kind of like that all season, back and forth. So to build on what was a positive home results against Valour last week with a pretty positive away results at, one of the most difficult places, probably the most difficult place at the moment to go and get a point or anything at in the Canadian Premier League is really big for this York side, and something to really build off of for them.
Yeah, and York again falling behind and finding their way back into it, which I think is quite impressive. And I think one of the bigger stories we're starting to see is Brian Wright, and his combinations, obviously combining very well with Austin Ricci in this game, assisting the first goal. Mitch, what has impressed you about kind of his form and maybe just the confidence that he has at this point? Because he's kind of been, in some respects, carrying the York attack at times, at least from a goal scoring point of view. So what do you think is really working for him at the moment?
Yeah, we've been talking about, Dyer and Diaz. Maybe we should be talking about Wright and Ricci with the way they're performing right now. I mean, quite simply, I love the areas he's getting into. He's consistently in those dangerous spots, working his socks off. We've seen a lot of the goals come based off, him pressing the defenders or the goalkeeper at a tough position and picking off passes and then scoring. Again in this game, he comes in and picks off a poor back pass and scores. He's been making the most of those opportunities, whereas last year I think he had a lot of chances and maybe didn't score them. So to get a goal for him so early in the season and then just to build off of that again, you just love from a striker when they're getting into those proper positions, when they're on the last man always and making it difficult on them. And I think Brian Wright's been fantastic with that this year. And again, York's been getting in pretty solid service. Ricci's one of those players who, has gotten him the ball in good areas. There's all kinds of play forward. Babuli, as well, has connected with Wright. So you love the way he's leading the line for York right now.
Yeah. Speaking of Ricci, let's go back and hear what he had to say, because he was asked about the relationship he's building with Brian Wright. So let's get Austin Ricci's thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, I'm happy for Brian. Obviously, we want our guys, especially our striker, to keep scoring every game, stay in good form, and we have a good connection. We've known each other for 10, maybe more than 10 years now, so we definitely have a good connection, and hopefully we can keep it going moving forward.
I'm not sure if they were cutting the grass at ATCO Field while he was talking. But anyway, Cavalry, Mitch, they're unbeaten in their last 5 after losing on opening day. In pretty comfortable position. I think Tommy Wilden Jr. pointed out that they're in roughly a similar spot at this point in the season as they were last year. And, we all know how that ended. How do you feel after this one if you're Cavalry? 19 shots overall, 1.73 expected goals, 7 shots on target. They definitely might have come away with all 3 points were it not for some tricky bounces, some good saves from Vincenzini. What do you make of kind of how Cavalry come out of this game and maybe the form that they've been in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of dueling stories, right? I mean, they've scored first in 4 of the 6 games they've played so far. So that's a major positive and a big, factor in their success last season. So the fact that they're still doing that, you have to look at that as a positive. But now they've dropped a league leading 7 points from winning positions through 6 matches. So that's something they have to clean up as well. And something that we discussed, I think to start the season and has been a theme throughout is them putting teams to bed. We haven't seen that enough where they take that lead and then, they played well in that first half. I think they had some opportunities to maybe, go up 2 or more against York in the first half. But the fact that they aren't able to once again is a bit of a concern and is something that they're going to want to continue to work on. But, I think I think again, just if they can keep taking leads in matches, and if they can keep fighting back, that's the thing as well. As they do that again in this game, they did that in Ottawa. They aren't losing games right now, like a Halifax, for example. So I think that's a positive as well. Is they're showing that mentality to at least get points out of these types of games, but they're going to want to start picking up 3 sooner rather than later, because those gaps eventually do become quite large between the top and where they are right now.
Yeah, I mean they're in 6th place, but they're only 3 they're 4 points back of second.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where we are at this point in the season. Things are very tight, and I don't think anybody would be at all surprised if Cavalry went on a run of winning 3 of 4 or 4 and 6 or something, and they're suddenly in the top 2 of the table. A couple quick individual things I want to shout out with Cavalry though. We need to talk about Fraser Aird, who has started the season incredibly. And I keep looking at my screen over here to the left of me, because I'm just not sure I'm reading right that he created 8 chances in this game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't had time to look it up, but that might be a record in the CPL. I've never seen a number higher than like 4 on this Opta sheet. So that's pretty incredible. But Fraser has been outstanding to start the season in Calgary, and one of the benefactors, or is it, or does he get the benefits? Are you a benefactor if you get the No, you're not.
Yeah, no.
You're I just don't know what the word. Anyway. Yes, that's the one. That's the one.
Insurance terms.
That's the one. Tierney knew a word that I couldn't pick. So good job. Anyway, one of the beneficiaries, Malcolm Shaw, 7 shots in this game. So that's really good for him. Obviously scores one of them. 0.44 expected goals for him on his own. 7 touches in the box and 7 shots is also kind of indicative of the areas he's getting the ball and kind of his mentality to pull the trigger on those chances. So good for him. Kind of to wrap this one up though, let's go back one more time to Calgary and hear from their boss, Tommy Wilden Jr.
Yeah, I think because we've been in a situation where actually we weren't as good last year, and we didn't win a single game, even in the cup competition and in the league play. The difference is we've won, right? We're unbeaten in 5. Depends on which way you want to glass half full or half empty. We're a half full kind of club where we're thinking, right, we can only get better. And I think that's what I said to lads, is that I'm challenging them all the time now, is we can be better. We can be better. We can do this better, and we're putting it into practice. So it's now about execution.
It's about execution. Anyway, on to the second game of the weekend, our third game that we're talking about on the show, which was earlier that same day in Hamilton. Mitchell, you were there. Forge 1, Vancouver 2. Vancouver's first ever win at Tim Hortons Field, which is a big day for them. I think we might say a bit of a surprising moment to see Vancouver come into Hamilton and win like that. Romeo with the first goal and Vasco Fry with the just outstanding Olympico later in the game, still in the first half though. But Mitch, what did you make overall of this game, of Vancouver's approach to defeat Forge in this game, and maybe just how what you kind of noticed as this one progressed?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you go on the road, if you can strike within the first 3 minutes, obviously it's pretty much textbook to have that opportunity. I don't think it was a perfect. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it was a perfect road performance after that, because after they scored, they let Forge basically into their half for the next maybe 20 or so minutes to really came incredibly close. I think Callum Irving had to make a fantastic save on Amadou Kone, who was starting with Jordan Hamilton and Taron Campbell out, which is a bit of a story in itself. But then you go and moment of magic. You get your Olympico. What is that? The fourth Olympico we've seen at Tim Hortons Field. Borges has 2. Becker has 1. You're good for 1 a year at Tim Hortons Field at this point. So you get that, and then to be able to see it out, obviously, that's the big thing on the road is probably, and especially at Tim Hortons Field, you're going to suffer for most of the game. So to get that second goal was critical, and then to between a combination of probably luck, lack of execution from Forge, but also a tremendous effort from their entire team, subs and starters. They are able to get this one over the line, and their first road points of the season, their first goal at Tim Hortons Field, and their first result there as well for a young club. Considering Forge's history, it's a monumental result for them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is a weird one to look at. It's a weird one to think about if you're Forge. I think 20 shots. Final third entries are 88 to 28 in this game for Forge. After the third minute, I don't think you're saying that you really did that much wrong. Like, yes, you concede early, but then you give up a corner and the other team puts it in off the post from directly from the corner, which there's not a lot to do about. I think let's start with how they were feeling, because I think if you're Bobby Smirniotis, you kind of look at this one, you're like, I don't think that there's a lot that you'd want to change necessarily, other than wanting to be a little bit more clinical and in the final third, and maybe turning more than 3 of those 20 shots into shots on target. I think is probably the key here. But anyway,
usually conducive to success.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's kind of where the problem is lying in this game. But anyway, back to Tim Hortons Field. Let's see what Bobby had to say about it all.
Players are human beings. Yeah, and when you're a human being, and we all know that, we're not perfect. And you're going to have days like that. You don't want them. But we're not magicians that we go touch them on the head and it all goes away. Sometimes it's going to occur, and we've made some uncharacteristic stuff today. And it's cost us a goal early on, and you just got to make sure you minimize that and keep on doing the right things on the pitch. And we've done a lot of right things. We deserve more than a goal in this game. There's no doubt. But it's one thing to deserve, and it's one thing that you get. And today we didn't get it. Credit to Vancouver. They've come here. They've gotten 3 points, and we move on.
Vancouver, meanwhile, jumping ahead of Forge in the standings thanks to our brand new head-to-head tiebreaker. That's a lot of fun. Vancouver seeing themselves in third now with 10 points. Very quickly, Vasco Fry was asked after the game, he was asked to kind of break down the Olympico goal with the kind of implication of, did you mean it? Before we comment, let's see just what exactly his answer was to that.
Actually said the keeper, he's young, so just attack it, put the ball close to him. We have big guys in the box, so I put it there, and luckily it went in.
Luckily it went in, and
I think that sums it up. Yeah,
that's pretty much it. 3 points. Attack the young keeper. I don't know if Chris Kalongo has been very good to start this season. I think it's important to say. But anyway, sometimes you try and it works out for you. So good for Vasco Fry. Again, as you mentioned, maybe everybody should be shooting for the back post from a corner at Tim Hortons Field now. Maybe it's just the wind in that stadium or something. It's just or some kind of magic from those corner flags.
It's magnetic rims, what was the Kawhi Leonard thing back in the day?
Yes, yeah.
Magnetic posts.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be wild. Anyway, a big win for Vancouver FC, especially because they've got Derby coming up next weekend. So that is going to be a big day, and obviously a Vancouver team that is, in my opinion, I think a little further along than I expected them to be this early in the season, considering how many new faces are in that squad, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, there's even more positives coming out of this game from some of those new faces. Alan Enyu, who, by the way, when you see him next to Rocco Romeo and you see that he's slightly taller than him, you're like, oh, this guy's a big boy. Frightening. That's not going to be a fun center back duo to go up against if they stick with that one. So he adds depth there, and he's been tremendous in his first couple of games in the Canadian Premier League, and that's another big add for a team where maybe there were some questions at center back coming into this season. I think they're starting to answer that, and they're showing a decent amount of depth there as well. So yeah, overall, I think like you said, Vancouver, they are ahead of schedule to start this season, and that's always, points in the bank are always great when you start a year. It doesn't really matter what time of year they come at.
Yeah, absolutely. Spoiler alert: both center backs are in the team of the week this week. Romeo and Enu. Anyway, good times for Vancouver. Let's move further back in time, though, to the game that I wouldn't. I wouldn't blame you if you had forgotten, because it is so long ago now. It was on Friday night. But anyway, Pacific hosting Atletico Ottawa in what was at the time a clash between two teams tied at the top of the table. That is now no longer the case, as Ottawa are alone by 3 points on the top of the table, thanks to Ruben Del Campo, thanks to a strong defensive effort, and thanks to 3 points against Pacific FC. Mitch, let's start with Atletico Ottawa. This was a professional road win, right?
Yeah, I think that's one way of putting it. You would have almost liked to see them press their advantage a little bit more, honestly.
Mhm.
I know that's maybe a storyline that we've been kind of tracking here a little bit about, we'll talk in a bit, I'm sure, about all the difficult circumstances and injuries that Pacific went through. But when they've gone through all of that, and they can't even make substitutes in the second half, you would have liked to have seen them maybe be a little bit more direct and clinical in the second half. But this is the man of the hour in Ruben Del Campo, and with so many teams this year struggling to get production out of their number 9, and Pacific is probably one of those teams. This is so important to have him score 4 games in a row, and that was one of the questions coming into the season for Ottawa, was who is going to do that. So if you have a guy like that who's scoring consistently, you have the quality of the team around you in Ottawa. There's a reason they're undefeated this season. There's a reason they're top of the table, and that's a big part of it.
Absolutely. And I mean, we do obviously have to mention that it was a tough first half for Pacific. We'll get more into it when we talk about them, but using all 3 substitution windows in the first half due to injury, losing Ali and Dom 5 minutes into the game, and having to give a guy a club debut in Christian Greco-Taylor from that point is not ideal, I think they would say. But I mean, you can't take anything away from Ottawa. You have to give them credit for getting the job done in that situation. When you're handed that opportunity, you have to take care of it. And Ruben Del Campo now, he scored in 4 games in a row in the league.
Yeah.
Plus his 2 in the Can Champ. So I think it's 6 goals in his last 5 games for Atletico Ottawa in all competitions. This guy is absolutely firing right now, right?
Yeah, he absolutely is. And we've talked about it in the past, but what you love from him is he's such an active center forward. He's not a guy just up there, contrary to maybe our Instagram comments, tapping in, lovely balls from the rest of the team. He tested, I think, 21 duels in this game. Like, he was all over the place, getting stuck in, creating chances for himself and others. And you love the way he finished that goal, just the composure to take it down and then a strike. And no one's beaten Gazdov this season, so it was going to take something immensely special, and it was a special way to score.
Yeah, it certainly was. And you can just see how much confidence he has to take those shots and to attempt those. Last word on Ottawa, though. Let's go to their goalkeeper, actually, because it's a clean sheet for him, Ryan Yesley, who comes into the land of the clean sheet so far this year, and it's him that takes it out. So let's go back and let's hear how Ryan Yesley saw his team in front of him on Friday night.
Well, we knew it was going to be a really tight game, to be honest. I feel like we seized the chance that we had. These type of games are really close. You could see by the last game that they played against Forge. It's details that matter in these types of games, and Ruben Del Campo was able to make the difference, and I think that's what made us win.
That's what made us win. Attaboy. You score a goal and you don't let one in. That's how you do it. That's exactly how you draw it up. Anyway, on to Pacific. Mitch, this was a weird one for them, and I think it's one where it's just kind of that situation where things go so wrong in the first half. If you had managed to get through it without conceding, maybe you find a moment late. But if you're Pacific, this is one where the plan just went completely out the window within like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and how much can you plan again when you have to use all 3 substitution windows, and that changes your game plan from the start. It changes your game plan from later. Who knows if they were going to bring on someone like Ayman Salouf, perhaps, who I guess wasn't probably 45 minutes quite fit yet to go in this game, because they could have made the halftime substitution, but after that they couldn't. So yeah, I think that it's one where if you're Pacific, it's similar to Forge. You know, you've been in such a good style of play, rhythm. You've been getting results. You just kind of toss this one aside as, you know, as a weird game. Things like this are going to happen over the course of the season. Let's keep going. You know, the big question now is the health of these guys and whether or not, you know, again, significant players, Sean Young, Adonijah Reed, and probably first and foremost in terms of the non-contact injury is the health of Ali and Dom. And, you know, if you lose someone like him, what that could mean for your season. But hopefully he's all clear. It was precautionary, and we'll see from there. But you know, those are the big kind of storylines coming out of this game for me, is just what does the future hold for those players?
Yeah, for sure. And just finally on Pacific before we move on, I know that after this game they were still not very happy with the way that they played it. You know, I think we'll hear from them in a second, but James Merriman talked about how they're not sharp enough in the final third. You know, they come out of this game with they'd almost like 57% possession and only 7 shots. Yeah. And I think that's kind of indicative of the kind of, I don't know, the kind of dullness sometimes of the way that they kind of try to get into the box. It's just not quite there. They're not getting into those dangerous areas, and they're just not like they're just not coming at the goal with you know the danger, the intent that I think you need, especially against a team that's as well organized as Atletico Ottawa. And I think it's something that, you know, has been kind of a simmering issue to begin the season. But they've been getting away with it because of how good the defending has been, how good the goalkeeping has been. And, you know, if you don't concede any goals, then you can get a lot of results if you kind of just score 1 goal in a moment, or you have a bunch of 0-0s, which they do. But anyway, let's go back and just hear from James Merriman, because I think this was something that he talked about after the game.
Yeah, I think obviously it's difficult when we make 3 changes in the first half. It's really, you know, to find your rhythm and to take control of the game, which is what we wanted. We came in at halftime, we accepted the situation and the reality of what happened in the first half, and the way we came out in the second half, I thought we were very strong. I think we did enough to get something out of this game, at least. I think the game was there to win as well. But we need to look at ourselves in the final actions, the final third. We need to be more aggressive. We need more intensity. We need to be more direct to goal. Overall, we cannot be happy with the way we're attacking the goal. But everything else, I think, nothing to say. You know, the team is putting in a really big shift. Without the ball, we just came off a heavy load with games, and I thought the game was there for us.
It was at times, but anyway, Pacific looking ahead now to that huge May 25th game at Vancouver FC. Man, yeah, it's gonna rock. It's gonna be a really good derby. We know how much Vancouver want to be the best team in BC. They've made so many changes. They're such a different team this year. We just saw that morale boosting result. Pacific, you know, they really need that one too. They really need that one in Vancouver. So don't miss it. 3:00 Pacific time, 6:00 Eastern next Saturday. And, you know, on that note, we might as well bring the whole schedule up for next weekend, because, I mean, obviously, if you're listening on Tuesday, there's the Canadian Championship game tonight. Cavalry playing the Whitecaps in Vancouver, and tomorrow night on Wednesday, then you are able to see what's the game? Yes, Forge in Montreal. That's right. As I pull it off the top of my head, Forge in Montreal, leg 2 on Wednesday, and then the other ones involving CPL teams, Pacific and Ottawa, not till the week after, on Wednesday the 29th. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, you might know what happened in the Cavalry Whitecaps game. If you're listening on Thursday, you'll know everything that happened this week. So good for you. There you are in the future. Hello from the past. Maybe you're listening to this after next Wednesday, and you know the full semi-final set of the Canadian Championship. In which case, I think you're listening to the wrong show because we've probably done another one that's a little bit more relevant. Anyway,
getting 40 minutes in though, I appreciate that.
yeah. Until you notice, maybe we'll have like very similar results next week, or I don't know. Anyway, match week 7 in the CPL. Yeah, coming up this week. York United at home against Halifax, as we mentioned, on Friday night, 7:00 Eastern, followed by Atletico Ottawa hosting Forge on the Saturday at 3 Eastern. Vancouver hosting Pacific, as we just mentioned, at 3 Pacific that night. And then on Sunday, the Tony Bet match of the week is Cavalry FC at home against Valour FC. That should be another exciting one as well. 3:00 Mountain Time, 4:00 Central, 5:00 Eastern, if you're where we are going to be watching from. Anyway, we're 40 minutes into the show. We have a couple of minutes left, so we're going to, as usual, bring producer Benedict Rhodes in for some stoppage time. I'm not sure we have any mailbag questions, but Benny, you have some rapid fire torture devices for us. So I am going to, as always, give the floor over to you and see how uncomfortable you're going to make me when I have to think off the top of my head.
I promise nothing too bad, I promise. We're going to start with on Saturday, Cavalry and York. All 4 goal scorers previously played for other CPL clubs. So I'm wondering, who, in your opinion, is the best intra-league transfer in league history?
Oh, in league history.
Ooh. In league history. Oh, okay. Well, full disclosure, Benny has kind of lied to us here because he gave us an 11-minute heads up before the show to think about intra-league transfers, and I thought that they were going to be hypothetical ones. So I had lots of changes going in my brain. There have been a lot. I mean, Amir Didic to Pacific feels like it was a really big one. I mean, Manny Aparicio to Pacific the first time, won them a championship. So I think those are probably the ones that are sticking out the most to me. Mitchell, I'm not sure if there's anything else that's coming to mind for you immediately.
I guess like from an impact standpoint, like you kind of group them, but Campbell and Hijabrapor to Forge after, winning the championship, and Hijabrapor goes on and scores the winners the following year. Yeah, so I think that was pretty significant ones. Again, Benny really stitched us up here, though.
He did. He really did. But that is a very good one.
The biggest one you guys are missing is probably Ollie Bassett, right? Like MVP, player of the year, Golden Boot winner.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's actually like maybe the objectively right answer.
Yeah, certainly.
Like leaves Pacific for Ottawa and is immediately the best player in the league that year. That's probably the one, and continues to be one of the best players in the league. It's a good shout. Well done, Benny. Anyway, what's next?
Number 2, true or false? After a string of good performances, Ryan Yesley should keep the starting job in Ottawa.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I mean, I don't think that I personally, I'm always in favor of kind of riding the whoever's hot at the moment. I think they've got two very good goalkeepers between him and Nathan Ingham, and I'm sure it's communicated at the start of the year that they'll both get their opportunities. And I think when you're in a league that's as tight as it is at the moment, you maybe give a guy a run and a chance to establish himself. And then if it's if that form starts to dip, it's so much of a luxury for Carlos Gonzalez to be able to swap him back out and put in a guy as experienced as Nathan Ingham, right, Mitchell?
Yeah, I think it's more of a challenging one because training's different for goalkeepers.
Yeah,
I think sometimes it's like hard to maybe judge them in training the same way you can, an outfield player. So, the classic answer is we don't see what they're doing in training kind of thing with these different players, but with goalkeepers, that's maybe not quite the same. So I think I tend to agree with you. If they're cruising, I think you give the net to Yesley right now, but I don't think you're maybe as like one goalkeeper focused as some other clubs where if you do have a midweek match, maybe you throw Ingham in, that kind of thing. You don't necessarily need to back Yesley or Ingham in the same way that certainly clubs who start their goalkeeper every game do.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, like I don't necessarily think either of them is going to be the absolute definite starter that starts every week by the end of the year. I also don't think that they're going to do the Boston Bruins thing where you kind of just swap every week for no real reason other than to just play them both. I think this is 28 games in a CPL season. I'd say that they'll both play at least 12 of them, barring any kind of injury.
Do you think come playoffs we see like the house league hockey thing where we give them each a half? You're like, okay, Ryan, you're going in for the first half and then you switch. Yeah.
I wonder if I wonder which one of them is better at saving penalties.
Yeah.
I wonder if that becomes relevant in the Canadian Championship next week. We've already seen one goalkeeper switch before a shootout this year, so maybe we'll see. Anyway, Benny, do we have any more?
Yeah, you have two more. Ottawa, first of all, Ottawa hoping to go further in the playoffs than the Boston Bruins did. But
we can all enjoy some Boston Bruins hate. I think that's one thing we can all.
I don't love how far the Boston Bruins went.
That's fair,
I actually wish it was less. But, anyway.
It's no secret that Halifax has been struggling to score so far this season. But none of their forwards have scored a goal yet this year. Who will be the first one to get the monkey off their back?
It kind of depends how we're defining a forward.
I think we have the same answer. If that's the
Massimo
case.
Ferrin.
Yeah,
for sure, Matt. I think he's. He was their best attacker last year. He's finally looking a lot fitter than he was to begin the year. So I think if anybody's going to lift this team in the attacking area, I feel like it's got to be him, right?
Yeah, an inch away from the goal of the season so far at the weekend. So I think Ferrin's getting close. You can see him starting to dial in his his range. I think it's only a matter of time before he starts to score like he did at the end of last season.
Last one. Nico Moroniak has getting a lot of minutes recently for Cavalry FC. And as you all know, he's outstanding hair. So, running, which player in football history has the best or most iconic haircuts?
Football history. Oh, man.
Definitely not Ronaldo with the fringe. That's maybe the worst one I've ever seen. There have been some good haircuts. Carlos Valderrama had great hair in MLS. That might be my answer. I mean, I've always been a big Jack Grealish supporter, but I know that his hairstyles are polarizing, so maybe that's not a popular answer. But it is among recent players. That might be my guy.
From a classy perspective, I always just got frustrated by how good Andrea Pirlo's hair always looked on the field.
Yeah.
It was always just in the perfect position, but there was still wave to it. It didn't look like a helmet. I don't know how he does that, but some kind of Italian hair product that we need to get sponsored by so I can start using for the show and any sort of movement I might be doing in my life.
That's actually a really good shout. And among the more maybe traditional hairstyles, and I think maybe his hair looks good just because he's really handsome, but Olivier Giroud, just because it's always well sculpted.
Yeah,
I think that's probably it. None of the David Beckham haircuts though. I'm not a fan of any of them.
Any of them.
Sorry, Dave. If any of them,
I think he's had every haircut though. So
if any of them had been that good on you, you would have kept one.
Ooh,
I don't know. Anyway, Benny, did you have an answer for that one? I feel like you've got one in your head.
Federico Bernardeschi changed to corners the other day, scored a hat trick,
and
you can watch him live tonight on OneSoccer. So
you can watch him live tonight on OneSoccer. Oh no, thank you. I'm out on that. Out on that haircut. I don't know what he's doing, but you know what? If it works, it works. If it works, it works. Guys plenty of soccer players do weird things to get themselves going. So you know what? Good for him. Anyway, thank you very, very much, Benedict, for our rapid fire segment in Stoppage Time. It's a lot of fun. We will be doing that every week. And of course, you can send in any questions you may have for us to answer via Twitter, Instagram, message in a bottle, but you might want to go soon so it gets to us by next Monday. Anyway, we hope that you've enjoyed the show. Yeah, it's a long one. It does depend on the current. We hope you've enjoyed the show, the CPL Newsroom presented by Volkswagen. We will be back next Monday to break it all down. We hope you enjoy the Canadian Championship action this week on OneSoccer, as well as Week 7 in the CPL coming up. For Mitchell Tierney, I'm Charlie O'Connor-Clarke. Thank you and have a very, very good week.
There are 6 players in and around the 6-yard box. Fry's lifted it up. It's off the post, and it's an Olympic goal for Roscoe Fry. So he's looking for Del Campo. Turns the corner. Del Campo! Oh, he can't stop scoring goals! And what a finish that is for the Spaniard.
Oh my goodness me, they're back in front, Valour. And Valour FC celebrate their first win